Thank God it's Monday. I know you're expecting me to say thank God it's Friday, Godwin and Adewale, but thank God it's Monday, and I am not happy.
Why are you not happy?
Because Gary is now 72,000 naira a bag.
72,000 naira. Nigerians have a lot to have a discussion on that, but it's a good morning to you from here. My name is Adewale Olashopo.
Wale, sorry. It's a good morning too. There's something good about the morning.
There's something
feels
good.
like you're not in Nigeria.
I am in Nigeria, but it feels
Gary,
good to be back here on the show.
Feels good? Okay, yeah.
Nigerians, good morning. I'm Godwin Sunday, and please forgive Chinatu. I know she's really angry. I know this Gary issue is really, really disturbing.
For somebody who is a Gary advocate, you can understand my frustration. I went to the market, so you don't say I didn't say good morning. I went to the market to buy Gary. The Gary man was complaining, customer, don't be so. I say, whoa, how much is Gary? He said 72,000 naira for a bag. So you now understand why it was hard to say good morning, because actually, the hope of the common Nigerian like me.
Not like me and you.
Are you a common
just say like me.
Don't use me and you. The poorest
no, we're not poor. You know, Wale, on this table we're not poor people. You know,
we are not. But you understand the place of Gary. I cannot emphasize. That's
very important. But I think it's a very important issue that we discuss here before we start our show on the headline today. Looking at the prices of food, inflation. We've mentioned it a number of times, how it's climbing and the wages are going down and Nigerians are suffering, and it's not a small conversation to have, and it's not an easy space Nigerians are really feeling right now, because if you go to the market, we talked about the prices of Gary, even the prices of other food items needed in the house, groundnut oil, palm oil, even the prices of gas itself that we used to. I think it's from the ingredients down to what you used to cooking, and at the end of the day, what else are you putting on the table? And I think that's where the conversation should end. At what Nigerians are putting to the table, it's actually a good meal. We talked about balanced diet.
Balanced diet.
It's balanced diet, even part of the conversation right now. Let's just have something in our bowl.
But while speaking of gas just reduced. And gas reduced. I think
but still, is it
has reduced
price?
to 1,150 naira. It has reduced from it was 1,004. It has reduced to 1,150. It's going down.
It's going down. I think that's the conversation we're having.
We're not having.
We're having that. Go ahead, because you seem like an advocate. You said it has gone down to 1,100.
You
should tell me the price of dollar. When we were celebrating that it has gone back to 1,000 naira, it has gone back. Then it will. The next day we will see it will rise like Gary.
I can see that. Finally, you've tilted to Chinatu's table.
It's just the way.
I thought it's a broke thing. You stand beside me and.
But you know the thing about. I think before we run to the headline reviews we have today, when you spoke about gas, Wale, we tell people climate change action, do this for the climate, don't cut trees, allow trees grow, and then people fall back to gas, and they are buying gas at how much? 1,000 naira. And Godwin sits here to tell us it has reduced.
Chinatu, I sincerely apologize.
Maybe the reduction is when we have it at 250. Because I remember, it's not even up to a decade.
You can't keep planning for the impossible. It's not possible. 250 for gas.
It's possible. No. We live in a gas-producing nation. We live in a country that produces crude oil, which we get other elements from it. So I think it's something that it's not rocket science. It's doable if we actually put in the effort. Some people might argue that we have the population, 200 million population. We have a lot of people to feed. But if you look at countries that are doing well, aside Nigeria, people with a huge population, we talked about India, we talked about Brazil, or even the biggest of them all, China right now. Or let's say India is taking over in the last few months. But these are countries that are doing a lot for themselves. They're not producing oil themselves. But if you look at the prices of oil compared to the wages in the country, it's not something that you can compare in Nigeria.
Wale, my joy right now is that you're still wishing.
Well,
in as much as you're still wishing, no problem.
Can we look at the headlines?
Well, viewers at home, we'll go for it. If you're watching us from any part of the world, don't worry. This is how we start the show. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll be delving into the headline reviews. Please go nowhere, because the show is just started.
Yeah.
You're welcome back. My name is Adewale Olashopon. You're watching Headline Reviews on AfroConnect TV. I am not, of course, doing this alone. If you're just joining us, we've been having a conversation so far before we went on that short break. And Chinatu has been an advocate on one end, and Godwin Sunday has been an advocate of the government on the other end. But we have to go ahead to review of the newspapers we have today. So we're starting off with this day newspaper. Atiku accuses Tinubu of conflict of interest, alleges son's affliction to Chogri. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar yesterday accused President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of conflict of interest because his son, Sheyi Tinubu, was on the board of CDK Integrated Industries, a subsidiary of the Chogri Group owned by one of the president's business allies, Gilbert Chogri. Atiku said development constituted a conflict of interest given the Chogri Group's involvement in the gigantic Lagos to Calabar coastal highway contracts being carried out by the Tinubu government. The former vice president criticized the contracts as hurriedly awarded and executed against the country's procurement laws. In a statement by his media advisor, Paul Ibe, Atiku, who berated the federal government, however, advised Tinubu to focus more on attracting real investors than adopting propaganda as a state policy. We've seen a lot of allegations, counter-allegations, and the issue of due process as regards to the case of the gigantic project, as some people would say, signature project of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the Lagos to Calabar Coastal Way. And we've seen a lot of people come to attack the project in different ways. We've had people talk about whether preliminary approval was given or an approval was given from the Ministry of Environment that would assess the project to understand that it actually is certified by the Ministry of Environment to ensure that there's going to be environmental protection while the project is ongoing, because we cannot degrade the environment while we're trying to implement a project as such as big estates which span our entire coastline in the country from Lagos to Calabar all the way to Calabar. But Atiku has also come out to say that there's also a conflict of interest, that Tinubu's son, which is Sheyi Tinubu, is one of the board members of the CDK Integrated Industries. And when we have things such as this is still an allegation. We cannot completely prove if his son is a board member, or even if his son is a board member of this organization, which is also going to be a part of the construction of the project. Then it begs a lot of answers. Prior to this time, we must establish that there were people that criticized the people that the project was awarded to. There were no open bidding allowed for the projects. And then we have David Umahi, the Minister of Works, come out and said, oh, it wasn't because of that. It was because the government can have projects for organizations or corporations or companies that have established themselves and have proven that they are up to the task, or they've assessed their work over time. So we have that. But now with the accusation from the former vice president, I think the federal government and the ministry itself has to come out to clear. And even the son of the president that has been accused has to come out and stay openly to Nigerians, because we've been seeing him around Aso Rock lately. We've been seeing him, he journeyed with his father to Saudi Arabia. It was some people were saying he was part of the delegates that were shaking hands with the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. But that's another conversation for another day. But we must come to understand that transparency is key in governance, and for a project as gigantic as this, billions of naira, trillions, I should say, of naira is being earmarked for this project. It has to be. We have to be sure that the money is going into the right direction, and there are no cutting of corners from anybody because of their affliction or their affiliated relationship with anybody as high, even as the presidency. But also looking at the issue of opposition politics in Nigeria. We look at how well PDP has played opposition party politics in Nigeria. APC played it wonderfully while they were in opposition, and I think we can see how they're even able to counterattack all these allegations that are coming out. We just see Atiku come out, Peter will come out there tomorrow. We need more involvement from the political party itself to ensure that the dividend of democracy is realized, that we have the governing party and we have the opposition party that are also looking at the assessing all other things that the governments are doing. But I'm sure Godwin has an advocate's I visualize
Has God ever been an advocate?
No,
point of view.
It's only Gary that I didn't advocate for. You know, no.
But you take a lot of
she has always been at the forefront of agricultural matters and food concerned issues.
Well, let's go to the conversation.
But only the truth is that when it has to do with issues of borders and politics, one thing that has always been on the political front is the issues of interest. Politics is a game of interest, whether you like it or not. Now, when Atiku raises issues of this magnitude, one would have expected that there are already instances where the project is going to fail because the president's son or the president's relative is part of the governing or the board. That's one thing we should be looking at. Would the project fail because the president's son is part of the board?
Because it's not violating any law.
That's what I'm coming from. If it's going to fail, then we can now raise eyebrows. Okay, it's going to fail, so let them take this project out. But right, we've never commenced this project. They are just doing clearing of the entire environment. We're still looking at some of the documentations of this project, trying to put David Umahi to the task, the Minister of Works, to try out to know how effective, if you demolish people's houses. We've seen cases where government come in and people's houses have to be sacrificed for the better good of the public. And in the long run, those projects are abandoned. Would this be another abandoned project? Now, these are what we're trying to get from the Minister of Works. No, this one Atiku is coming out right now to say that, of course, there must be interest. If you don't give it to his son as board member, he will give it to...
Well, I think I like to come in here. Yeah. I like us to understand that as long as we're public servants, the seat as a government official, you owe us transparency, whether you like it or not. When the people elected into that office, you rendered yourself to be accountable. So Nigerians are not really asking, Atiku is speaking now as a Nigerian, as part of the masses. So this concern he's raising is really coming from a place of, is this the right thing? Are you accountable enough? Is your son supposed to get that? Where is the transparency? And the back and forth of all of this is we all need transparency. It doesn't even matter who is going to handle the project, but let us see that it's the right hand, it's the right people, and it's executed. It is executed.
The spokesperson for the government has spoken one day. We need to go to Daily Trust right now because our time is fast spent. And let's go to Daily Trust, where the federal government reconnects 8 Sokoto. This is a very interesting story. Federal government reconnects 8 Sokoto local government to national grid after a decade of blackout.
Wow.
Well, the report has it that the federal government has pledged to restore electricity in 8 local government areas in Sokoto state that have been without power for a decade. For those that don't understand, decade means 10 years. The pledge came after the state governor, Ahmed Ali, raised the issue during the official visit of the Minister of Power, Adelabu Adebayo, recently. A delegation from the Ministry of Power was dispatched to assess the affected areas to reinstate electricity supply. Speaking during the assessment exercise at the weekend in Sokoto, Mustafa Baba Umara, the Director of Distribution at the Federal Ministry of Power, said the federal government's team would carefully study the nature of the problems causing the blackout in the affected communities and report back for necessary action. To which simply means that there is no guarantee that there's going to be power in Sokoto. But then let's take this issue, let's put it in perspective. This Sokoto is the seat of the caliphate in Nigeria. And as such, the level of developmental strides in Sokoto ought to be at the pinnacle, it ought to be at the peak. But right now, we're just finding out that there are 8 local governments in Sokoto that have not seen light, that have not been able to have effective power supply. They've been having blackouts in the 8 local governments for the last 10 years in Sokoto. Now, due to the intervention of the Governor Aliyu, with encounter with Adelabu, which happens to be the Minister of Power, they were able to come to terms. Okay, we can bring a team to the place and ensure that we're able to bring normalcy in terms of power supply to that community. And right now, the team is still trying to study. I know what we need to study. We need to put committees together, put committees in place to know. Research have to go in to know why is there blackout. And they've now start mounting poles. From poles, there now be supply of transformers, before powers, and power will be restored to that community. Now, while this is going to take approximately 6 months, 1 year. Now, if you add that to a decade, that would be amounting to like 11 years. Now, I can't even imagine that we live in a country where people have not seen blackout for 10 years, Chinatu. When I saw the story at first, what caught my attention was the decade in the story. People live, the communities you get to even in the Federal Capital Territory, where they will tell you that they don't experience blackout for approximately 2-3 days. Here is a community that have not seen lights for power for 10 years. Now, I wonder when these children within that community, when they see power for the first time, what would their reaction be? If those of us that see it on a regular basis, we see screen up NEPA. Now, those of them that
we
not
see it on a regular basis.
Chinatu, I respect
Band why?
Band why?
But it really calls for concern.
It does cause for concerns. And let's put this into the right perspective. Perhaps we give a little bit of context to the conversation. Now we have 23 local governments in Sokoto State.
Yeah.
8 hasn't been connected to the grid for the last 10 years. If you do that, we have, I'm trying to do my math here, 8 minus 23, we have 15 local governments in the states that have perhaps been connected to the grid. So what exactly has been happening in the past 10 years? In the past 10 years, we had an administration called President Tinubu. President Buhari, I beg your pardon. President Tinubu is the current governance in town right now. But for the last 8 years or so, or last 9 years, we've had the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. And what exactly did they achieve with power? And what exactly was done in the state? But looking at 8 local governments in a state with 23 local governments, that's a huge chunk out of the state. That's of course will have a setback.
50%.
Almost. That's a huge setback for the economic development of the state itself, because this is a state that would not have to run electricity based on generating a generator or some other alternative to power generating sources. So all of that will have what it would cost to the economic development of Sokoto State, but also looking at the issue of the broader context of electricity in Nigeria. We talked about the hike in electricity tariff. Is it because now they have more money to collect from people, so they are going about to look for who does not have lights that we can connect to, so that we can mop up more money? Because people will talk in that manner, even though this is being done to ensure that we connect communities and local government to the grid, to ensure that there's a development in the state. But those are questions that we need to ask ourselves, what has been done? And for also the issue of states generating power themselves, or even local government or communities, this is why we need to decentralize the power structure in Nigeria, and to ensure that there are some universities in the United States that generate their own electricity and even continue to sell or to continue to power other neighboring communities that surround their vicinity. So these are things that we need to look into, that will ensure that state itself can generate electricity, can distribute it, and can manage the entire power structure and power distribution and generation in their state. So if we have all this architecture put in place, and we have these laws that back these this intervention that we want to make happen, it would make life easier and better for everybody. Because I'm wondering, for a year of
just
analyzing and doing a lot of assessments and whatnot. So if we do all of that for a year or so, and then we now say, okay, now is the time to start connecting it, the connection itself will take many months or so before we connect the lights. So I think the deed has been done, the wound is already there. How do we close it is what I think we need to focus
if it can
on.
be closed. Because the child that's gone for a child that's 10 years old, I've not seen light, I've not seen power for 10 years.
For 10 years.
You can
By
imagine.
the time the child sees lights,
Yeah, you wonder what
Looks like
it
a
is.
spiritual attack.
Godwin, we can't go there. Chinatu, let's have your take on that. Left to Godwin, we would have this conversation in another realm.
I'm pained. Let me talk like Chinatu. I'm pained. I'm in pain. You know?
but honestly, I'm pained.
We were expecting you to say that, but we're all pained.
We're all pained.
It's not a shared pain. Our own is exceptional.
The power struggle in Nigeria, I mean, the light situation in Nigeria is always calling for concern. And when Wale spoke about how we need to put architecture in place to ensure that we start generating our own power, you know, in a more independent way. We have groups, we have people, we have schools, we have bodies generating this power. In schools, we have, colleges of education, we have School of Technologies. They actually do these things, but they finished doing it. I mean, I've attended an exhibition where the people in the engineering department displayed different power plants, what they were able to do to get lights. And then what happens to all of that? And I'm very sure this is not what happens in one school. If you go across the 36 states in Nigeria, you see young people coming up with these ideas, but do they have an enabling environment? So like Wale said, the wound is there, but can it even heal? Because there are people who have these ideas, but do we have an environment that supports these people? And tomorrow you start seeing them going out of the country and then doing amazing things. Yeah, we start experiencing brain drain in the country and you're wondering what happens. I mean, if it were you, God, won't you move?
Even with the level of the sun in the north, one shouldn't be having the conversation around
solar.
That should be the benchmark for conversations in the north.
Before you go into the next story, you made mention of solar, and China right now is one of the largest. It's even the largest exporter and producer of solar energy and power in the world, and they've turned an entire desert into solar generating plants. What are we doing with all the deserts in Nigeria and all those good places? There's a lot of resources that are wasting, but of course, the conversation will continue.
We'll keep continuing. So let's head to the last story from Blueprint newspaper, where we have Serap to court, order Wike Sani orders to account for 5.9 billion naira, 4.6 billion naira loans. Sorry, $4.6 billion. Hey.
I don't know why you want to cut down the money, Serap.
Before Serap will now include us in the suit.
You make up for
the story is the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, Serap, revealed that it filed a lawsuit against the 36 state governors and minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nyesom Wike Godwin. The suit followed alleged failure to account for 5.9 trillion naira and 4.6 billion naira dollars loans. Why do I keep saying naira? Can naira just rise?
You're in love with the naira.
Obtained by their states and the FCT, and to publish copies of the loan agreements, including details and locations of projects executed with the loans. Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani had revealed that the immediate past administration of Nasir El-Rufai left $587 million, 85 billion naira, and 115 contractual liabilities, which according to him made it impossible for the state to pay salaries. This is money we are talking about, Godwin, Wale. When I say money, a huge sum in this same country where we have Gary going for something.
You've returned back to Gary conversation.
It's not, I mean, when we see people throw money around like this, you collected loan to do something and you could not execute it. And they're asking you, be accountable. What did you execute with the loan you collected? I mean, their therapy is even calling on the current FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, come out and tell us what you did with this money, or pay back the loan. Show us things that you did, and it is difficult. And honestly, matters of accountability in this country is becoming worrisome, because it's like you ask for accountability and you don't get it, because nobody holds anybody down for anything. So seeing Serap now, I'm wondering, powers that be, a body that be, government that be, everybody that be coming together, who bows for the other. You know what they say about when two elephants are fighting?
Yeah.
And then we have the governor of Kaduna saying that his immediate past governor left huge. I mean, I can't even go into all of that, because what did you do with all of that money? And then the state is struggling to stand, and we can't see the result. I mean, allegedly, right?
Exactly. And I think it begs a lot of questions, because firstly, we have a Freedom of Information Act. I wouldn't have expected that this would go all the way to the courts. If we have that Freedom of Information Act, then you could approach states and ask them, what exactly did you use this state's money, the people's commonwealth, what did you use it for? So that's a given. But looking at the issue of what Serap is saying itself, this is money that was, it's a loan, so it had to be paid back. And of course, we know that it's debt servicing that we've been doing over the years. Most of the loans, we haven't even begun to pay any of them. We're still servicing them over the last few years. So if we're servicing loans and we've collected them and we've used them judiciously, if you said we have done that, then show us what you've done with it. And I think that's what SERAP is telling us. And I think just like you mentioned, things about transparency, accountability, that's the dividend of democracy. And that's what beautifies democracy, that you can ask questions and things can be done in a transparent and accountable way. So we're looking forward to see how the state governors respond to that. And for the Kaduna State governor that said some people, the past governor left a huge debt and some other contractual liabilities for him to. So he's not the only governor. There are other governors in Nigeria that are leaving. Yeah. I think the only example is what we have with Peter Obi, but Peter Obi is another conversation. That didn't leave any debt. He only left money back for.
Wale, I wanted to take the conversation to another angle. But then we don't have that time.
Exactly.
Because looking at this SERAP conversation, I wanted to take these billions that we're talking about. Yeah. I wish SERAP can also try to look at it from the various stratas of government, from the various tiers of government. Let's just take it away from the federal, the state government. Can we now narrow some of our allegations and counter allegations on loans and collections of capital, federal allocations also, to the lower cadre? But then that conversation, it's one conversation that if we start right now, one might not leave this table.
Exactly. We'll probably continue to that. But the conversation has been wonderful so far. And a lot of things we've said here. But the price of Gary has to go.
I wanted to say we should appeal to the government to please.
We need to appeal to the government. This is the hope of the common man. The prices of goods in the country have to go down. And we, of course, we've had conversation about the prices of petrol as well as some other commodities. When petrol goes up, you know, understand that other commodities would align with it. So that's how we draw up the conversation today. My name is Adewale Olashopo.
And I am Chinatu Oji.
And I am
Godwin Sunday. We had to join you. But thank you as well for being a part of this conversation today. Until we come your way tomorrow, do well to join us on all our social media platforms where you can be a part of the conversation. Bye for now.